Because we are so easily overwhelmed. We have difficulty filtering out what's unimportant, and focusing on what is important. So our brain doesn't know where to go to look for the information that you're asking us to do. So remembering what we successfully did one day, and then remembering how to do it the next day, memory can be a problem because that requires brain connections to the memory areas.
Hi, I'm Staci Neustadt. I am a speech language pathologist and the CEO at Making Sense of Autism, and I'm a student of Susan.
And I'm Susan Golubock. I am a now retired occupational therapist who has worked many, many years after I discovered even my own autism with other autistic individuals. I founded Making Sense of Autism because of my passion to not only understand my brain and how it worked differently, but to try to explain what I've learned to other people so that they're more understanding and therefore more accepting and more accommodating to autistic individuals.
So, our goal is to help you provide the right support without trying to fix autism, but by understanding it. So, whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or just someone who wants to learn, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and join us every week. We talk about a new topic. So, one thing that I hear very, very frequently is how autistic clients or students or children of autistic, the parents will come to me and say they can do it one day, but the next day they can't. And I feel like that instantly is viewed as defiance.
Yeah.
So, Susan's going to share with us today how the autistic brain works because she lives it, and share with us what is it that we're really observing. We're not observing defiance. What is it?
Actually, research has suggested that, and it may relate to the gut that produces the chemicals that feed the brain, that the autistic brain can work inconsistently. Now, you have to remember, you've got inconsistencies in your everyday life too,
Yeah.
depending on how you feel, how overwhelmed you are, when your mind is preoccupied with so many other things. Um, so, illness, all those things can affect your ability to function consistently, to remember, oh yeah, I did that yesterday, or I do that every day, and then today for some reason I forgot. Um, so that's not really that unusual. It just happens a lot more in autistics, because we are so easily overwhelmed. We have difficulty filtering out what's unimportant, and focusing on what is important. So our brain doesn't know where to go to look for the information that you're asking us to do. So remembering what we successfully did one day, and then remembering how to do it the next day, memory can be a problem because that requires brain connections to the memory areas. And which is why repetition at least helps make some things a little more automatic. But if it's fairly recent that they've just done it, doesn't necessarily mean they can make that connection to realize, oh, in this setting, in this day, you want what I did another day in a different setting. And I've got to go search for it and then make that connection that what you want here is actually the same as, and it's not different, but it's okay. And I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but um, uh, there's just so many really reasons why an autistic has difficulty remembering to do that. Also, we have poor motor memory. It's like when my dad would say, "Smile for the camera." Well, it's not like I haven't smiled before, but I didn't know where to retrieve. Well, what does it feel like? I can't see my face. Am I smiling or grimacing? Am I? I don't know what my body is doing. So that can lead to difficulties in repeating an action that I did spontaneously, or even with deliberate. I managed to make the connection and did it deliberately yesterday, but then I can't make that connection or remember what I'm supposed to do with my body to make it happen this time. So, can you see how many reasons there are for all of this inconsistency?
Absolutely. So it sounds like first, when we're seeing this in our clients, if they're struggling with retrieving the information that maybe we just asked 5 minutes ago, or the previous day, or the previous week, first we kind of need to look at their bodies. Are they even regulated that day? Are they able to access it information?
Mhm.
Which we can do. And then, kind of depending on the regulation, helping them co-regulate and whatever they need to kind of calm their nervous system. But then in terms of memory, what kinds of support can we provide to help them retrieve that memory? I know as a speech therapist, I provide like word banks so they don't have to use that language part of their brain if word retrieval and word memory is difficult. What are some other tricks that we can provide to support the memory barrier?
Probably the easiest one is imitation. Start whatever action you want them to do. Oh, do you remember? Should I show you, remind you? And then actually initiate doing it. And that's likely to trigger where to look in the brain for, oh, yeah, I remember that. Now I can do it. So you may not have to do the whole thing. You may just need to get them started, initiate it. And visual, of course, is a stronger one than auditorily. The tendency is to tell them what to do. Well, now I'm in the auditory part of my brain. Auditory processing is generally not one of the strengths for autistics. Now we've got to translate what you're saying into an image in order to understand it. At least that's how my brain works. If I can't picture what you're saying, it doesn't have meaning. It's just words. And it's not like I don't recognize that these are words that I could probably give you a dictionary definition of, but that doesn't mean it translates into I have an image of what it is I'm going to do. So initiate modeling is probably the best thing you could do.
Yeah, I saw this in one of my students last week where we were talking about hurricanes and tornadoes. And while those were words that obviously were familiar to him, when we were using a word bank and categorizing their descriptions, I could tell that when we went through it first and it was just words, he really, really struggled. So we moved over and we explored pictures of tornadoes through Google and pictures of hurricanes through Google. And then we went back and categorized that vocabulary again. And it was a world of difference.
Mhm.
And so what I also point out to my students is like, whoa, what do you think made that easier? And I think that self-awareness too kind of helps it stick in their memory of like, oh yeah, that having those pictures did help. So with the third area that you mentioned with the motor, does it also help to provide the model as well as like even a mirror so that they could, so for OTs and, that motor memory piece, what supports would you suggest in those areas?
Oh, yeah, I think a mirror so that I can see what I don't feel. I can see myself doing it. Oh, I spent hours practicing facial expressions that I saw Shirley Temple do in the mirror in the bathroom, because that way I could see. And of course, my actions, like most autistics, are more exaggerated so that I can feel them. Because if they're subtle, I don't feel them. So I would exaggerate them so that I knew what it felt like when I did make a facial expression that I can't see myself to do. But you also made a good point about using feed forward and feedback as memory aids, because what you did is you prepared them by talking about it and bringing up the words, but then you made that link. And once you made that link, then you did feedback to remind them what they learned and actually think about what made that difference. Um, and that's going to more help them put it into their memory banks, because you told them what was going to happen. You then did it, showed it to them, and then talked about it afterwards. That helped them. All of those things are going to strengthen that link so that next time it's easier to retrieve.
Yes. So great strategies, because again, I know this is something that can be frustrating to providers. And it's like, wait a second, you did this the other day, but know that they are trying. They just can't
Mhm.
retrieve it. But I agree with these strategies and supports for memory, for motor planning, all these pieces. If we provide the right supports, feed forward, prepare them, and feedback, reflect on what worked, what didn't work, and then celebrate that effort. That is what is going to bring that connection, because we're celebrating every effort. And then when you provide the support, reduce that frustration, because that's got to be just as frustrating for them as
Mhm.
maybe it is for the provider. So great advice. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you for asking, Staci.